The human soldier woke up slowly, as if his mind was climbing out of deep water. The first thing he felt was cold metal under his back. The second was silence too clean, too careful to be a battlefield. His eyes opened, and white light stared down at him from a smooth alien ceiling. His name was Ethan Cole. He remembered the war. He remembered fire, broken walls, and the last stand at the alien fortress. He remembered choosing to hold the line so others could escape. After that, there was only darkness. Ethan tried to move. His body ached, but nothing felt broken. That surprised him. He had expected chains, pain, or a cell. Instead, he lay on a wide platform inside a clean chamber. Soft machines hummed around him, and strange symbols glowed on the walls. Footsteps approached. 3 alien soldiers entered the room. They were tall, with blue-gray skin and armor marked with gold lines. Ethan tensed, ready for the worst. He had fought their kind for months. He expected anger or hate. Instead, they stopped and bowed. Ethan blinked. "This has to be a dream," he muttered. One of them stepped forward. "Human soldier Ethan Cole," the alien said in clear but careful English. "You are awake. That is good. Why am I alive?" Ethan asked. His voice was rough but steady. "Because you are victorious," the alien replied. "Victorious." The word felt wrong. Ethan pushed himself up and sat on the platform. "Your fortress was falling. I stayed behind so my people could escape." "That's not victory." The alien tilted his head. "You saved our civilians as well. You could have destroyed the core." "You did not." Ethan remembered then. The control room, the alarms, the choice. He could have ended the war in that moment. Instead, he had shut the core down safely, even knowing it might cost him his life. "I didn't do it for you," Ethan said. "That does not matter," the alien replied. "By our law, such an act earns the highest reward." The soldiers escorted Ethan out of the chamber and through long halls of silver and blue. Along the way, aliens stopped to stare. Some looked confused. Some looked afraid. Others looked respectful. They entered a large hall filled with leaders, commanders, elders, and officials. At the center stood the alien commander Ethan had fought against more than once. The commander raised his voice. "Human Ethan Cole," he said. "You fought with strength. You chose mercy. By our custom, you are owed a reward." Ethan crossed his arms. "I don't want one." A low murmur moved through the room. "You will accept it," the commander said calmly. "It is already prepared." 2 guards stepped aside. And then Ethan saw her. She stood quietly between them, hands folded, eyes lowered. She was clearly alien, but shaped in a way humans could understand. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face filled with emotion she tried to hide. Her skin was pale gold, her eyes large and dark. She wore simple clothing with a metal band around her neck. Ethan knew what that band meant. His chest tightened. "This is your reward," the commander said, "a valuable one. She is trained to serve and obey. She belongs to you now." The hall was silent. Ethan stared, not at her beauty, but at her fear. He saw it in the way her shoulders were tense, in the way she did not look up. He had seen that fear before, on prisoners, on civilians, on people who had no choice. "No," Ethan said. The word echoed louder than he expected. The commander frowned. "You misunderstand." "I understand perfectly," Ethan replied. His voice was calm, but hard. "You're calling this a reward. I'm calling it a life." The alien woman finally looked up. Her eyes met his, filled with confusion and a small, dangerous spark of hope. "This is our way," the commander said. "She has no other purpose." Ethan stepped forward. The guard stiffened, but he raised his empty hands. "Back on my world," he said. "We don't reward heroes by giving them another person in chains." Whispers broke out across the hall. "She didn't choose this," Ethan continued. And neither did I. I didn't fight a war just to become someone's master. The commander studied him in silence. You reject the reward? Yes, Ethan said without hesitation. I reject it. The hall erupted in shock. Some aliens shouted. Others stared as if the universe had shifted. The commander raised a hand for silence. Then what do you want, human? Ethan looked at the woman again. He saw fear, but also strength buried deep. He took a slow breath. Vone want her free, he said. The words landed like thunder. The commander's eyes narrowed. That is not a reward. Ethan met his gaze. Then maybe, he said, it's time you learn what humans really fight for. The alien woman's breath caught. And in that moment, in a hall meant to celebrate victory, something far greater and far more dangerous was about to begin. The hall did not explode into noise right away. Instead, silence spread slowly, heavy and uncomfortable. The alien leaders stared at Ethan as if he had spoken madness. No warrior had ever refused a reward. No one had ever asked for less instead of more. The alien woman stood frozen. Her heart beat so loud she thought everyone could hear it. Freedom was a word she had only heard in old stories, whispered by those who disappeared soon after. Ethan lowered his hands and took a step back. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said calmly. But I won't accept this. The commander rose from his seat. His tall form cast a long shadow across the floor. Human, he said, his voice sharp now. You stand in the heart of our authority. You survived because of our mercy. Ethan nodded once. And you survived because I showed mercy first. A ripple of shock moved through the council. The commander narrowed his eyes. Careful. Pride has ended stronger beings than you. Ethan did not raise his voice. I'm not proud. I'm tired. I've seen enough cages for one lifetime. The alien woman felt something twist inside her chest. No one had ever spoken like this for her or for anyone like her. She was trained to obey, to wait for orders, to expect pain if she failed. Yet this human spoke as if she mattered. The commander turned toward her. You, he said coldly. Do you understand what this human is denying? She swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. Yes, Commander. You belong to him now. His refusal insults our law. Ethan stepped forward again. She belongs to herself. The guards lifted their weapons instantly. Enough, the commander roared. Human, you push too far. Ethan stopped, but he did not bow. Then punish me, he said. Lock me up, send me home, do whatever you want. But don't call this justice. The council began arguing among themselves. Some elders spoke in fast alien tongues. Others watched Ethan closely, studying him like a strange creature. One elder finally spoke. Why does this matter to you, human? You gain nothing by refusing. Ethan looked at the woman. Then he looked back at the elder. That's the point, he said. Some things shouldn't be traded. The alien woman felt tears burn in her eyes. She lowered her head again, afraid they would see. After a long moment, the commander raised his hand. The reward is suspended, he announced, until we decide what to do with the human. The guards grabbed Ethan's arms. He did not resist. As they pulled him away, the woman's eyes followed him. For the first time in her life, someone had walked into danger for her. Ethan was taken to a holding chamber, not a cell, but close enough. The door sealed behind him with a dull hiss. He exhaled slowly and sat on the floor. So much for a quiet recovery, he muttered. Hours passed, or maybe only minutes. Time felt strange here. The door finally opened. Ethan looked up and froze. The alien woman stood there, escorted by a single guard. The metal band was still around her neck, but it glowed faintly now, no longer active. The guard spoke. You have been granted a private conversation. Do not attempt escape. Then the guard left. Silence filled the room. The woman stood stiffly, unsure what to do. I was told to speak, she said softly. Ethan rose slowly, careful not to scare her. You don't have to, he said. You don't owe me anything. She looked confused. You refused me. I refused owning you, Ethan corrected gently. Her hands trembled. Why? Ethan searched for the right words. Because where I come from, no one should wake up knowing they belong to someone else. She stared at him, as if trying to understand a new language. Freedom is dangerous, she whispered. That is what we are taught. Ethan nodded. Yeah, it is. Freedom is dangerous, she whispered. But it's also worth it. She took a small step closer. If they free me, what happens then? Ethan didn't lie. I don't know. But whatever happens, it should be your choice. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she asked the question that mattered most. Will you leave me if I am free? Ethan met her eyes. I won't abandon you, he said. But I won't control you either. Something inside her broke and healed at the same time. Outside the chamber, unseen and unheard, alien observers listened carefully, and for the first time in their history, they began to wonder if the human was not weak at all, but dangerously different. The council chamber filled again, but this time the air felt different. Not proud, not victorious, unstable. Ethan Cole stood alone at the center of the wide circular hall. His hands were free, but guards surrounded him at a careful distance. They were not sure if he was a guest, a hero, or a threat. Across the chamber, the alien elders argued in sharp, fast voices. He refuses law. He disrespects tradition. He is only one human. Ethan did not interrupt. Soldiers learn. Patience early. The alien woman Lyra stood near the wall, silent as always. But something had changed. Her eyes were open now. Watching. Thinking. The commander struck the floor with his staff. Silence. The elders obeyed. Human Ethan Cole, the commander said, his voice cold and controlled. You stand accused of challenging our reward system and questioning our social order. Ethan nodded once. Sounds right. A low hiss moved through the chamber. You speak without fear, the commander continued. Why? Ethan thought for a moment. Because fear is what keeps bad systems alive. The words landed hard. One elder leaned forward. Explain. Ethan lifted his head. You say slavery is normal, that it gives order, that some lives exist only to serve others. He looked around the room. That's not order, that's control. This is our civilization, the elder snapped. And every civilization thinks it's right, Ethan replied calmly. Until someone shows them another way. Lyra's heart raced. Humans were not supposed to speak like this. They were supposed to accept, obey, survive. But this one stood in the center of power and spoke as if he had nothing to lose. The commander narrowed his eyes. You believe your morals are superior. Ethan shook his head. No, I believe they're human. And humans learn them the hard way. How? By becoming monsters first, Ethan said quietly. The room grew still. Ethan continued. My people once owned each other too. We used excuses, law, tradition, strength, and it broke us. Wars, revolutions, blood. We almost didn't survive ourselves. Some elders shifted uncomfortably. We changed, Ethan said. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. One elder scoffed. You expect us to change because of one soldier? Ethan met his gaze. No, I expect you to change. Because you saw what choice looks like. The commander turned slowly toward Lyra. You, he said. Step forward. Her body reacted before her mind. She moved, head lowered. Speak, the commander ordered. Do you wish to remain under protection? Lyra froze. This was not a question slaves were asked. Her throat tightened. She felt every eye on her judging, waiting, ready to punish. The wrong answer. Ethan spoke softly, but firmly. You don't have to answer. The commander's eyes flashed. She will. Lyra trembled. Years of training screamed inside her to obey. To stay silent. To survive. But another voice, new, fragile, whispered something else. She lifted her head. I do not know, she said honestly. Gasps echoed. I was never allowed to choose, she continued, her voice shaking. How can I know what I want when I was never taught how? The chamber erupted. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. He felt it, the crack forming. The commander slammed his staff again. Enough, he looked at Ethan. Your influence is spreading. That is dangerous. Ethan opened his eyes. So was fire once. The commander studied him for a long time. You would break what we built. Ethan replied, No, I'd help. You build something stronger. One elder spoke quietly. What if others follow her example? Ethan answered without hesitation. Then you'll finally know who stands beside you by choice. And who stays only because they're afraid. Silence fell again. But this time, it was thoughtful. The commander turned to the council. We will not free her today. Lyra's heart sank, but he continued. Neither will we return her to bondage. Shock rippled through the room. She will remain under observation, the commander said. And the human will remain alive. Andin allowed himself a slow breath. This matter is not finished, the commander warned. You have planted a question in our society, human. Questions grow. Ethan gave a tired half-smile. That's usually how change starts. As guards escorted Ethan away, Lyra watched him go. For the first time in her life, she was not ordered. Back into silence. Around them, alien officials whispered. Soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Old beliefs felt suddenly. Thin. And far above the council chamber, unseen systems recorded something new in their data. Human presence correlated with instability. Instability correlated with reform. The war had ended. But something far more dangerous had just begun. Freedom did not arrive with cheers. It arrived with fear. Ethan Cole sat alone in a narrow chamber made of dark alloy. There were no chains on his wrists, yet this room felt more dangerous than any prison he had known. The aliens were not deciding if he would be punished. They were deciding how useful his death might be. Outside the chamber, the council argued. He is a destabilizing force. He inspires disobedience. He weakens tradition. Ethan leaned his head back against the wall and closed his eyes. He had faced gunfire, explosions, and enemies without number, but ideas were harder to survive. Across the station, Lyra stood in a guarded observation hall. The metal band still circled her neck, cold and heavy, but its control lights remained dim. That alone made her heart race. She was neither slave nor free. She existed in between, and that space terrified. Her. An alien scientist circled her slowly. Your behavior has changed, he said. Lyra kept her voice steady. I spoke when asked. You questioned authority. She swallowed. I answered honestly. The scientist recorded something on a floating screen. Honesty creates instability. Lyra remembered Ethan's words. Questions grow. She said nothing more. The council chamber filled again, this time without ceremony. No audience. No guards in sight, only leaders in shadows. The commander spoke first. Human Ethan Cole has violated cultural balance. One elder replied, yet killing him would confirm his argument. Another hissed, freeing the female would spread unrest. Silence followed. Finally, the commander made his decision. We will test the human. Ethan was brought before them once more. You claim freedom is a right, the commander said. Then prove its value. Ethan met his gaze. How? You will take responsibility, the commander replied. For her. The room darkened, and a hologram appeared, Lyra's image floating between them. If she fails outside our system, the commander continued, the fault is yours. If she causes unrest, it is your crime. If she dies, her blood is on your hands. Lyra's breath caught when she saw Ethan on the screen. Ethan did not hesitate. I accept. Several elders reacted at once. You would risk yourself for her? Ethan answered simply. I already have. The commander studied him closely. Then hear the cost. Lyra's control band deactivated with a sharp tone. The metal fell open and hit the floor. She gasped. You are free, the commander said to her, but not protected. Guards stepped back. For the first time, no one stood between her and the world. Lyra's legs shook. Freedom felt like standing at the edge of space with no tether. Ethan spoke softly through the chamber. You don't have to follow me. Lyra looked at him. Then she took a step forward. I choose, she said. That single sentence echoed louder than any explosion. They were given passage to a lower sector of the station, old, ignored, filled with mixed species and broken laws. It was a place where rules failed and survival depended on strength or allies. Ethan walked beside Lyra, careful not to lead her, but close enough to protect her. This place is dangerous, she whispered. So is freedom, Ethan replied. But you're not alone. Eyes followed them everywhere. Some curious, some angry, some afraid. A group of alien workers whispered as Lyra passed. One looked at her neck and froze. She walks unwound, he murmured. Fear spread like fire. That night, alarms sounded in the lower sector. A riot broke out, sparked by rumor, envy, and old rage. Guards rushed in, weapons were raised. Orders were shouted. Lyra stood frozen as chaos erupted around them. Ethan stepped in front of her without thinking. This time, the danger was not a battlefield. It was an idea that had escaped its cage, and ideas, once free, could never be controlled again. The lower sector had never slept before, but that night it truly woke up. Red warning lights flashed along the curved walls. Sirens echoed through broken halls. Alien voices shouted in fear and anger, mixing into one loud storm of noise. The riot spread too fast for the guards to control. Ethan moved, Lyra behind a thick metal pillar as a group of armed security rushed past. Stay close, he said calmly. Lyra's hands shook, but she nodded. Her heart felt like it would break through her chest. Freedom had lasted only a few hours, and already the world felt ready to crush her. This is because of me, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. No, this was already there. You just showed them it was possible. Across the sector, a group of alien workers faced their overseers. One of them pointed at Lyra. She walks without a collar, he shouted. Why not us? An overseer raised his weapon. Back to work. No one moved. The moment stretched thin and fragile. Then one worker stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. I choose to stop, he said. It was a small sentence, simple, but it hit harder than any blast. More workers followed him, some trembling, some angry, some crying. Guards hesitated. They had orders to control bodies, not ideas. From an upper balcony, the alien commander watched the chaos. His claws tightened around the railing. This is spreading, an advisor warned. If we crush it now, we may restore order. And if we do, the commander replied slowly, we prove the human correct. The advisor said nothing. In the lower sector, a stun blast struck the floor near Ethan's feet. He pushed Lyra down and shielded her with his body. Don't fight, he shouted to the guards. You'll only make it worse. One guard hesitated. Stand down, human. Ethan stood up slowly, hands raised. Look around you, he said. This isn't an attack, it's a question. A guard glanced behind him at dozens of unarmed workers standing still, watching. I won't fire. The guard muttered. Another guard lowered his weapon too. That was all it took. Lyra stared in disbelief as armed soldiers stepped back, not ordered, but choosing to. Her knees nearly gave out. Ethan noticed and gently steadied her. "You're doing great," he said quietly. She looked at him. "I'm afraid." He smiled softly. "That means you're alive." Later, when the alarms finally stopped, the lower sector felt different. Not calm but aware. Alien officials arrived, recording everything. Some looked furious. Others looked thoughtful. Lyra stood before a group of freed workers who gathered around her. "You are brave," one said. She shook her head. "I am just learning." Ethan watched from a short distance, proud but cautious. This was the dangerous part. Hope always was. An elder approached Ethan. "You did not command them," the elder said. Ethan nodded. "That's the point. You humans are strange," the elder admitted. "You fight wars, then refuse power." Ethan looked around the sector at beings standing straighter than before, even while afraid. Power taken ends. Power shared. Spreads. The elder considered that in silence. That night, Lyra sat alone, staring at the stars through a cracked viewport. She touched her neck where the collar had been. Ethan approached quietly. "You don't have to stay here," he said. "Things will get harder," she nodded. "I know." After a long pause, she said, "Before you came, my life was decided before I was born." She looked at him. "Now I don't know what comes next." Ethan sat beside her. "That's the hardest part of freedom," she turned to him. "Will they punish us?" "Maybe," he admitted. "But they can't undo what happened today." Below them, lights flickered as more workers refused orders, not violently, not loudly but together. Lyra watched and whispered, "They are choosing." Ethan followed her gaze. "Yeah," he said. "And once people learn they can choose, they never forget." Far above the station, reports spread through alien space. Multiple sectors unstable, human influence confirmed. Obedience systems failing, the council would respond soon. Not with words, but with force. And Ethan knew the next test would not be about ideas alone. It would be about sacrifice. The response came at dawn. Heavy ships locked onto the station. New troops arrived, elite units wearing black armor marked with control sigils. They did not come to talk. They came to end the problem. Ethan felt at the moment the air changed. "They're not here to scare people," he said quietly. "They're here to break them." Lyra stood beside him in the lower sector, surrounded by workers who had refused to return to their old places. None of them were armed. Most had never fought before. But they stood together, fear in their eyes, choice in their hearts. A loud voice echoed through the sector. "All unregistered beings, kneel and submit." No one moved. Ethan stepped forward before anyone else could. "This is on me," he said. "I'll talk." Lyra grabbed his arm. "They will hurt you." He met her eyes. They already planned to. He walked alone into the open space. The commander appeared on a hovering platform, armored now, no longer pretending to be calm. "Human Ethan Cole," he said. "You were warned." Ethan looked around at the workers behind him. "They're not weapons. They're people. You made them disobedient," the commander replied. "That cannot be allowed." Ethan spread his hands. "Then take me. End this without blood." The commander paused. "You offer yourself?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Let them go." A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. Lyra's breath caught. "Ethan, no." He turned slightly, not fully facing her. "This was always the price," he said softly. "I just hoped it wouldn't be paid." The commander studied him. "Your death will restore order." "Maybe," Ethan said. "But you'll never erase what they learned." The commander raised a claw. Before it could fall, Lyra stepped forward. "I choose to speak," she said. Weapons turned toward her instantly. She did not stop. "You fear chaos." Lyra said, her voice shaking but clear. But you created it. When you taught us we were less. She pointed to Ethan. He could not free us with force. He showed us we already mattered. The commander snarled. Silence. No, Lyra said. I will not. The word echoed across the sector. Something changed then. Workers stepped forward. One by one, unarmed, afraid, determined. A guard hesitated. Then lowered his weapon. Another followed. Ethan felt a strange tightness in his chest. Lyra. Step. Back. She shook her head. You taught me to choose. The commander's voice hardened. Fire. A stun blast hit Ethan square in the chest. He went down hard. Lyra screamed. Chaos erupted, guards firing. Workers running, some shielding others with their bodies. It was not a battle. It was a breaking point. Ethan tried to rise. His body refused. Through blurred vision, he saw Lyra kneeling beside him, tears falling onto his armor. Stay with me, she whispered. He forced a smile. Guess, I finally took a hit I couldn't dodge. She shook her head violently. You can't die. Not now, Ethan coughed. Listen to me. Whatever happens, don't let them take your voice. Her hands tightened around his. I won't. The commander watched the scene, uneasy now. The force he had sent to crush resistance had created martyrs instead. Medical drones rushed in, not ordered by command, but by nearby guards acting on instinct. An advisor leaned close to the commander. Sir, killing him now will ignite the entire station. The commander looked at Ethan, broken, bleeding, still defiant. Stand down, he ordered sharply. Weapons lowered. Silence returned, thick and trembling. Ethan was lifted onto a medical platform. His eyes fluttered. Lyra leaned close. You're safe, she said, though she wasn't sure it was true. Ethan whispered, Did they choose? She nodded, tears streaming. They did, he smiled faintly. Then it was worth it. His eyes closed. Hours later, the station buzzed with rumors. The human lived, but barely. The lower sector remained free. And across alien space, one message spread faster than any weapon. A single human stood alone. And an entire system hesitated. Lyra stood outside the medical chamber, no collar on her neck, no chains on her hands. She was afraid, but she was standing, and she knew now. Freedom always demanded a price, but some prices were worth paying. The human did not wake up for 3 days. Machines worked silently around Ethan Cole, glowing lights moving over his broken body. Alien doctors argued in low voices, unsure if saving him was worth the risk he represented. He was not just a soldier anymore. He was a symbol, and symbols were dangerous. Lyra waited outside the medical chamber. She did not leave. She did not sleep. She stood there, watching the door as if her will alone could keep him alive. Other beings passed her, workers, guards, even officials. Some bowed their heads. Some whispered her name. Not because she was important before, but because she had chosen to be now. On the 4th day, the commander arrived. You should prepare yourself, he said quietly. Humans are fragile. Lyra met his eyes without fear. So are lies. The commander said nothing more and walked away. Ethan woke to the sound of breathing that was not his own. For a moment, he thought he was back on Earth. Then he saw the ceiling smooth, alien, glowing softly. He tried to move. Pain answered. Don't, a voice said. He turned his head slightly. Lyra sat beside him. He smiled weakly. Still here? She nodded, tears forming. You taught me not to run. Ethan closed his eyes for a second. Guess I'm a bad teacher then. She laughed softly through tears. No, you are a human. News of his survival spread fast. Across the station, systems were changing. Not loudly, not all at once, but surely. Control collars were removed. For evaluation, workers were paid for the first time. Guards were ordered to listen before firing. The council denied everything publicly, but privately. They watched. One elder spoke during a closed session. If one human can do this without weapons, what happens when more arrive? The answer frightened them. Weeks passed. Ethan healed slowly. He refused medals. He refused titles. When asked what he wanted, his answer never changed. Let them choose. The commander finally stood before him again. You will leave our space, the commander said. Your presence causes instability. Ethan nodded. That's fair. But, the commander added, what you started will not be erased. Lyra stood beside Ethan, now not behind him. Good, Ethan said. Then you're learning. The commander hesitated, then said something no one expected. Thank you. Human. At the departure dock, a small crowd gathered. Workers. Guards. Freed beings. No speeches were made. Lyra faced Ethan, her hands trembling. If you leave, what do I become? Ethan smiled gently. Whatever you decide. She took a breath. Then I choose to stay. To protect what we started. He nodded, pride clear in his eyes. They'll need you more than they ever needed me. She stepped forward and embraced him, awkward, human, real. Ethan's ship lifted into space. From the viewport, he watched the station shrink into the stars. He did not see laws being rewritten. He did not see chains being destroyed. He did not see the future he had started, but that was the point. Humans did not stay to rule. They came, they showed another way. And then they left. Years later, alien history would record this moment differently, not as a rebellion, not as a failure of control, but as first contact with human values. And in the records, beside a quiet line about policy reform, another note would appear. A single human soldier refused a reward. And an entire civilization learned the meaning of choice. Far away, Ethan Cole returned to his people. He brought no trophies, no glory, only a story. And sometimes, that was enough to change the universe.